The red lights flashed across the command center as Admiral Robert Hayes ran toward the main screen. His heart pounded in his chest. Something impossible was happening. The sensors showed a ship that should not exist. "Sir, we have confirmed the signature 3 times, said the young officer at the console. Her hands shook as she typed. "It's the Storm of Wrath." Robert felt his blood turn cold. The Storm of Wrath was a ghost story. A legend. The massive warship had vanished 247 years ago during the Battle of the Void Nebula. 12,000 crew members had disappeared with it. Everyone assumed they were dead. "That's impossible," Robert whispered. But the screen did not lie. The ship's identification code was correct. It was really the Storm of Wrath. Ambassador Torin moved closer to the screen. The tall alien had 4 eyes that could see things humans could not. His blue skin seemed to glow in the dim light of the command center. "This could be a trap," he said slowly. "The ship looks wrong. Those hull modifications are not human technology." Robert had to agree. The Storm of Wrath looked like it had been torn apart and rebuilt by something alien. Strange metal-covered parts of the hull. The weapon systems had changed completely. Energy readings showed power levels that should be impossible. "We are receiving a transmission," announced another officer. "Put it through," Robert ordered. Static filled the room. Then a voice came through, clear and strong. It was a woman's voice. "This is Captain Elizabeth Hayes of the United Human Space Force ship Storm of Wrath. Requesting permission to dock. We are coming home." The room went silent. Every person stopped breathing for a moment. Elizabeth Hayes was a name from history books. She had been the captain of the Storm of Wrath when it vanished. If she had survived, she would be 284 years old. "Send a response," Robert said. "Tell them they can send 1 shuttle. No more. And our weapons will be locked on them the entire time." Ambassador Torin touched Robert's arm with his long fingers. "Are you certain this is wise? We know nothing about where that ship has been. What if they bring disease? Or worse?" Robert looked at the alien diplomat. "They are human. They are coming home. I have to give them a chance." 2 hours later, the shuttle docked with the command station. Security teams surrounded the airlock. Soldiers held their weapons ready. Medical teams waited with scanning equipment. Everyone was tense. The airlock door opened with a hiss of air. A woman stepped out. She wore an old military uniform that Robert had only seen in museums. The blue and white colors were faded but clean. On her shoulder were the captain's bars. She looked young, maybe 4 to 7 years old. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight knot. Her eyes were hard, like someone who had seen too much death. "I am Captain Elizabeth Hayes," she said. Her voice was calm but carried authority. "Serial number 47392 Alpha. Captain of the Storm of Wrath." Robert stepped forward. "I am Admiral Robert Hayes, Commander of the Coalition Defense Fleet." Elizabeth's eyes widened slightly. "Hayes? Are you related to Commander Daniel Hayes?" Robert felt a strange chill. "Daniel Hayes was my great-great-great-grandfather. He served on the Storm of Wrath as second officer." Elizabeth's face showed pain for just a moment. "Daniel was my son." The words hung in the air like a physical weight. This woman standing before them was not just from the past. She was family. She was impossible. "How?" Robert asked. "How are you alive? How are you still young?" Elizabeth looked around at all the faces staring at her. "It is a long story. But there is no time. Admiral, we need to speak privately. All of us." She gestured behind her. More people came out of the shuttle. They all wore old uniforms. They all looked too young. "We found them," Elizabeth said quietly. "We found the ones who started the war between humans and the coalition species. The ones who wanted us all to destroy each other." She paused and looked directly into Robert's eyes. "They are called the Consecration. And we discovered why they started the war." "Why?" Ambassador Torin demanded. Elizabeth's expression turned dark. "They wanted to weaken us. Weaken the entire galaxy. Because they are coming to harvest us all. Every living being. Every planet. Everything." She reached into her uniform and pulled out a data chip. "We brought back proof. We brought back their technology. We brought back the only weapon that can stop them." "And where are they now?" Robert asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. Elizabeth's next words confirmed his worst fear. "They are already here." Captain Elizabeth Hayes stood in the center of the Coalition Council chamber. Behind her were 127 crew members. They were all that remained of the original 12,000. The chamber was silent as thousands of eyes watched her. Humans, aliens, diplomats, and military leaders all waited to hear the impossible story. "We did not die in the nebula," Elizabeth began. Her voice echoed in the massive room. "Our ship was pulled through a tear in space. We thought it would kill us. The forces should have ripped the storm of wrath apart. But somehow we survived." She activated a hologram display. Images appeared in the air above them. Strange stars. Purple skies. Planets that looked wrong. "We ended up in a region of space where the laws of physics were different. Our engines did not work correctly. Our weapons systems failed. Even our medical equipment stopped functioning properly. We were stranded 15 light-years from any known space. But for us, time moved differently. We spent 15 years there. For the rest of the galaxy, it was 247 years. A council member raised their hand. "How did you survive?" Lieutenant Thomas Reed stepped forward. His left arm gleamed with strange metal that pulsed with blue light. "We adapted. We had no choice. Our food supplies ran low within 6 months. We started losing crew members to starvation and strange radiation. Then we found the ruins." The hologram changed. It showed massive structures on a dead planet. Buildings that reached into the sky. Technology that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced. "We called them the architects," Thomas continued. "They were a civilization that existed millions of years ago. Their technology was beyond anything we had ever seen. At first, we just tried to understand their power systems. We needed energy to survive. But then we found their libraries." Dr. Emily Clark moved to the front. She looked tired, like someone who had not slept well in years. The architects kept detailed records. They documented thousands of civilizations across the galaxy, including many that no longer exist. They all had one thing in common. The hologram shifted again. This time it showed symbols and mathematical formulas. They were all destroyed by something the architects called the consecration. A species that does not conquer or colonize. They consume. They harvest entire civilizations and leave nothing behind. Ambassador Torin leaned forward. "If this consecration is so dangerous, why have we never encountered them?" Elizabeth's jaw tightened. "Because they are patient. They wait centuries between harvests. And before they harvest, they prepare. They send agents to weak points in civilizations. They start conflicts. They create wars. They make species fight each other until everyone is exhausted and weak." The realization hit the council like a physical blow. Admiral Robert Hayes stood up. "You are saying the war between humans and the coalition was not random?" "No," Emily said quietly. "It was planned. The architects' records show the pattern. Mysterious attacks that are blamed on other species. Communication failures at critical moments. Small conflicts that grow into massive wars. The consecration has done this hundreds of times before." Thomas pulled up more images. "We spent 10 years studying the architect technology. We had to modify our own bodies just to survive in that region of space. Some of us merged with their machines. Others underwent genetic changes. We lost thousands of crew members in the process. But we learned. We learned how the architects fought the consecration. And we learned how they failed." "Why did they fail?" asked a human general. "Because they fought alone," Elizabeth said. "Each civilization the consecration harvested tried to survive by themselves. The architects were the most advanced. They built weapons that could crack planets. But even they fell. The consecration is not just one fleet. It is millions of fleets. It is a hive mind that spans across dark space. And it is coming here." The council erupted into chaos. Voices shouted over each other. Some demanded proof. Others called for immediate military mobilization. A few wanted to evacuate. The alarms cut through the noise. Every screen in the chamber turned red. An officer ran into the room, his face pale. "Admiral Hayes. We have lost contact with 3 border colonies. Talon 7, New Perth, and Glacier Station." "Send scout ships immediately," Robert ordered. "We already did, sir. They just reported back." The officer's voice shook. "The colonies are gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Every building, every person, every piece of technology. The planets are completely empty. Nothing remains." Elizabeth closed her eyes. "They are starting. The harvest has begun." Emily pulled up data on her tablet. The energy signatures matched the patterns in the architect records. "It is definitely the consecration." Thomas looked at Elizabeth. "How long do we have?" Elizabeth opened her eyes. They were filled with determination and sadness. Days. Maybe weeks. The consecration moves fast once they begin. Every species in the galaxy is now in danger. The hologram showed the nightmare. Thousands of consecration ships filled the screen like a swarm of insects. They moved together as one mind, consuming everything in their path. The Coalition Council watched in horror as another colony disappeared from the map. "We must evacuate," Ambassador Torin said firmly. His 4 eyes scanned the data. "We cannot fight this. No one can. We need to take our people and run to the outer reaches of the galaxy." Several other council members agreed. Fear filled the chamber. Species that had fought wars for centuries suddenly wanted only to flee. Admiral Robert Hayes looked at his ancestor. Captain Elizabeth Hayes stood with her crew, silent and calm. "Do we run?" he asked her. Elizabeth stepped forward to address the council. "Running will not save you. The consecration is patient. They will follow. They will find you. They always do. The architect records show this clearly. Every species that ran was eventually harvested anyway." "Then what do you propose?" demanded a council member. "You said even the architects failed." Elizabeth pulled up the schematics of the Storm of Wrath. "The architects fought alone. We will not. And we have something they did not. We understand how their technology works now. We can turn my ship into a weapon. A resonance device that can disrupt the consecration's hive mind." Thomas Reed pointed to key areas on the ship diagram. "The architect technology inside the Storm of Wrath can generate a frequency that breaks their mental connection. If we strike at the source, at their central nexus, we can shut down the entire consecration fleet." "Where is this nexus?" Robert asked. Emily Clark brought up a star map. Deep in uncharted space, far beyond any explored territory, a red marker pulsed. "Here. At the center of consecration space. It is a structure the size of a moon. The heart of their hive mind. Every consecration ship is connected to it." The chamber went quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. The nexus was surrounded by millions of enemy ships. Getting there would be impossible. Surviving would be even more impossible. "This is suicide," Ambassador Torin said flatly. "You are asking us to authorize a suicide mission." "Yes," Elizabeth said simply. "I am. But it is the only chance we have. The only chance any of us have." A vote was called. Species after species voted no. They chose evacuation. They chose to run. Only humanity voted to fight. Every single human representative raised their hand in favor of the mission. Robert stood before the council. "We will go alone if we must. My ancestor did not survive 247 years in hell just to run now. Humanity will take the Storm of Wrath to the Nexus. We will strike at the heart of the consecration. And if we die, at least we die fighting." His words hung in the air. Then something unexpected happened. A young pilot from the Valorian species stood up. "I will go with them. Humanity saved my colony once. I owe them a debt." Another alien stood. Then another. Within minutes, volunteers from a dozen different species had stepped forward. They were moved by humanity's courage. They were inspired by their refusal to surrender. Ambassador Torin watched this and sighed deeply. "Very well. The Coalition will provide support ships and resources. But this mission is voluntary only. No one will be forced to go." The next 3 days were chaos. Engineers worked around the clock to upgrade the Storm of Wrath and the volunteer ships. Weapons were loaded. Supplies were packed. The architect technology was integrated deeper into the ship systems. Elizabeth walked through the memorial hall on the station. It contained the names of her original crew. 12,000 names carved in stone. She placed her hand on her son's name. "Daniel Hayes. I am going to finish this," she whispered. "I promise." Thomas sat in his quarters recording a message. He knew it would never be seen by anyone who mattered. His family was centuries dead. But he recorded it anyway. "My name is Thomas Reed. If you find this, know that we did not run. We fought. And we fought for you." Emily looked at old photographs of Earth. Pictures from before the war. Green forests. Blue oceans. Children playing in parks. She had been gone so long that the Earth in her memories might not even exist anymore. But she would fight for it anyway. The day came. The Storm of Wrath powered up its engines. 23 volunteer ships formed around it. A small fleet against an impossible enemy. Elizabeth sat in the captain's chair. Her crew took their positions. Robert Hayes contacted her from the command station. Good luck, Captain. Luck has nothing to do with it, Elizabeth replied. We are human. We do not need luck. We need only will. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, coalition sensors detected the main consecration armada. It was massive. It was coming fast. Humanity had 3 days to save the galaxy or watch it die. The storm of wrath jumped out of hyperspace into hell. Consecration ships filled the void like stars. Thousands of them. All connected to one mind. All hunting. Evasive maneuvers. Elizabeth shouted. The ship twisted hard to the left as enemy fire scorched past them. The volunteer fleet spread out in attack formation. They had been fighting for 2 days straight. Already half the fleet was gone. Ships that had jumped with them now floated as wreckage in dark space. But they kept moving forward. Always forward. A Valorian cruiser exploded to their right. Thomas watched the fireball fade into nothing. We lost the bright wing, he said quietly. His voice showed no emotion anymore. There had been too much death. Keep going, Elizabeth ordered. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. We are close now. Emily checked her senses. The Nexus is 2 jumps away. But we have consecration battleships blocking our path. At least 50 of them. Then we go through them, Elizabeth said. The storm of wrath was not like other human ships anymore. The architect technology made it faster. Stronger. Stranger. It moved in ways that confused the enemy hive mind. The consecration expected logic. Humans gave them chaos. The ship dove straight down, then spun sideways. Weapons fired in all directions. 3 consecration ships exploded. But more took their place. Always more. Hull breach on deck 7, someone shouted. Sealing it now. Another volunteer ship rammed into a consecration battleship. Both exploded in a flash of light. The sacrifice gave the storm of wrath time to jump again. They came out of hyperspace facing the Nexus. It was massive. Bigger than a moon. A twisting structure of metal and flesh. Organic and mechanical merged together. Millions of lights pulsed across its surface. Each light was a consciousness. A captured mind. Billions of beings trapped inside, their thoughts consumed by the hive. Dear God, Emily whispered. They are all still alive in there. All the species the consecration ever harvested. Their minds are trapped forever. Elizabeth felt sick. But she pushed the feeling down. We have 2 escort ships left. Tell them to buy us time. The 2 remaining volunteer ships turned to face the approaching consecration swarm. Their captains knew they would die. They transmitted simple messages. For the future. For our children. For hope. Both ships charged into the enemy fleet. Explosions lit up space like fireworks. The storm of wrath dove toward the Nexus while the consecration was distracted. Brace for impact. Thomas yelled. The ship smashed through the outer layer of the Nexus. Metal screamed. Alarms blared. But they were inside. The corridors of the Nexus were alive. Walls pulsed like a heartbeat. Strange creatures that were once ships or beings stumbled toward them. Consecration drones. Mindless and hungry. Elizabeth led her crew deeper into the structure. They fought hand to hand. Guns fired. People screamed. The crew pushed forward through the horror. Thomas reached a massive chamber filled with architect technology. The same technology that was in the storm of wrath. This is it. The control center. Emily set up the resonance weapon. Her hands moved quickly over the controls. Then she stopped. Her face went pale. There is a problem. What problem? Elizabeth demanded. The weapon needs a primer. A human consciousness has to merge with the system to activate it. Permanently. Emily's voice shook. Whoever does this will become part of the machine forever. They will not come back. The crew went silent. They all understood. Someone had to die. Not just die. Worse than die. Become something else. Something not human anymore. Elizabeth did not hesitate. I will do it. Captain, no. Thomas grabbed her arm. Let me. I am already half machine anyway. Elizabeth pulled away gently. No. I gave the order to come here. I finish it. She looked at her crew. These people who had followed her for 15 years through impossible space. Get everyone to the escape pods. You have 3 minutes after I activate this thing. She walked to the interface chamber. A chair surrounded by cables and light. She sat down. The cables moved like snakes and attached to her head. Captain. Emily cried. Elizabeth smiled one last time. She thought of her son. Of Earth. Of humanity. Storm of wrath. Final order. End this. She closed her eyes and let the machine take her. Pain exploded through her mind. Then clarity. She could feel everything. Every consecration ship. Every trapped consciousness. The entire hive mind opened before her. And she knew exactly how to break it. The resonance wave burst from the storm of wrath like a shockwave. It ripped through the nexus. Through space. Through the connections that held the hive mind together. Across the galaxy, consecration ships stopped moving. The hive mind shattered into a billion pieces. Evacuate now. Thomas screamed. The nexus was collapsing. They had 2 minutes left. The resonance wave spread across the galaxy faster than light. It moved through the dark spaces between stars. Through the neural connections that bound the consecration together. The hive mind that had existed for millions of years suddenly broke apart like glass. On 1,000 battlefields, consecration ships simply stopped. They drifted in space, lifeless and silent. The war that should have lasted decades ended in seconds. Coalition fleets arrived at the nexus to find it collapsing. The massive structure was tearing itself apart. Debris filled the void. But among the wreckage, they found something precious. Escape pods. Small vessels fleeing the destruction. Admiral Robert Hayes personally commanded the rescue operation. Get those pods. Every single one. They recovered 23 pods. 23 survivors from the storm of wrath. Thomas Reed was pulled from his pod unconscious but alive. Emily Clark was burned and broken but breathing. Others came out injured but grateful to see the stars again. Where is Captain Hayes? Robert asked when Thomas woke up in the medical bay. Thomas closed his eyes. Pain crossed his face. Not physical pain. Something deeper. She is gone. She merged with the system to activate the weapon. She saved us all. The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Captain Elizabeth Hayes, lost for 247 years, had returned only to sacrifice herself for everyone. Human and alien alike mourned her loss. But then something impossible was discovered in the ruins of the Nexus. Engineers searching through the debris found active architect technology. It was transmitting. And inside the transmission were voices. Billions of voices. Emily studied the data with shaking hands. The consciousnesses. All the beings the consecration captured. Elizabeth freed them when she broke the hive mind. They were trapped for millions of years. Now they are released. Released where? Robert asked. Into the network. Into the architect systems. They are not alive in the traditional sense. But they are not dead either. They exist as pure consciousness now. Free. Among those billions of freed minds were the original 12,000 crew members of the Storm of Wrath. They had been absorbed when the ship first entered the rift. Elizabeth had not just saved the galaxy. She had saved her original crew. The Coalition held a ceremony that lasted 3 days. A memorial was built in orbit around Earth. On it were carved 12,127 names. Every soul who had served on the Storm of Wrath across 2 centuries. At the top was one name in larger letters. Elizabeth Hayes. Captain. Hero. Guardian. Ambassador Torin spoke at the ceremony. His 4 eyes showed tears. We did not understand humans before. We thought them reckless. Chaotic. Unpredictable. Now we understand. These qualities are not weaknesses. They are strength. Humanity does not calculate odds before doing what is right. They simply do it. The galaxy owes them a debt that can never be repaid. 50 years passed. The galaxy slowly healed from the war. New alliances formed. Species that had fought each other now worked together. The memory of the consecration and the sacrifice of the Storm of Wrath kept everyone united. Thomas Reed was now an old man. His body was more machine than flesh, but his mind was still sharp. He stood at a shipyard watching the construction of a new vessel. The most advanced warship humanity had ever built. A young cadet approached him. She wore a fresh uniform and had eager eyes. Admiral Reed, sir. I was wondering about the name of the new ship. Why is it called Storm of Wrath II? Thomas smiled. It was a sad smile but also proud. It means when humanity makes a promise, we keep it. No matter how long it takes. The first Storm of Wrath promised to protect the galaxy. That promise does not end just because the ship is gone. Will we ever need it? The cadet asked. The consecration is defeated. Perhaps not, Thomas said. But there are always threats in the darkness. And humanity will always stand ready to face them. That night, Deep in space near the ruins of the Nexus, Coalition sensors detected something strange. A signal. Faint but clear. It transmitted on old human military frequencies. The message was simple. Just a few words. But they meant everything. Still on watch. Still protecting. Storm of Wrath, signing off. The signal faded into the stars. Scientists debated what it meant. Some said it was just an echo. Leftover radiation from the destroyed Nexus. But Thomas knew better. He stood on the observation deck of his station and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Elizabeth Hayes still watched over them. Not alive. Not dead. But eternal. "Thank you, Captain," he whispered to the void. "Rest easy. We will take it from here." The stars twinkled in response. And deep in the darkness, the galaxy slept peacefully, guarded by ghosts who refused to stop caring.